And happy Saturday. I am back. We just had a very spirited discussion about the flexing that Tyson Fury did uh during the negotiations, the prolonged negotiations with Alexander Usyk, the Ring Magazine WBA Super IBF WBO IBO heavyweight champion of the world. And listen, Joe's asking the question here, guys. You let us know in the chat. Was it all a bluff? Was it all a bluff? And was this a bluff that went wrong? Kind of like Joshua's cherry pick of AJ, sorry, of Andy Ruiz went wrong. I don't know. Joe, why don't you lead us off with your thinking on this topic?
So once again, here's the thing, man. Perception sometimes becomes reality, right? That's been said before. Obviously, I'm not the first person to say that. So whenever you hear one side really haggling over the money and you know, making demands that some might say seem unreasonable, and you could argue that 70-30 is could be unreasonable. I would have thought 60-40 would have been fair. I respect Usyk, right? I
Same.
understand what he does bring to the table, and I do hold those two wins over Joshua in very high regard. I most certainly do. And at some point, you have to say to yourself, if you're Usyk, I've been making concessions my whole career. At what point does it stop? At what point do I start getting things tilted more towards my favor? I understand all that. But then Fury on the flip side says, well, you have all these mandatories that you can take that are probably all lined up for you if you don't take the fight with me. And these are against guys who are nowhere near the stratosphere of my status, right? So even taking 30% with me and the chance of taking my belt and becoming undisputed and becoming part of history, right? That 30% is probably five to 10 times more than whatever you're going to get fighting those other guys in mandatory fights,
Like
right?
Daniel Dubois, who was
Daniel
mentioned by
Dubois,
Usyk.
Hergovich,
Yeah,
Joe,
Joe
don't
Joyce.
disrespect, but Joe Joyce. You can even argue Joe Joyce. You may have to go even split with him if you're going to fight him in the UK, right? So, that's the alternative. And Fury's looking at all that and saying to himself, how is this guy telling me how this is going to go down? I'm the boss here, right? And whether we like it or not, the reality of the situation is Fury did have the leverage, right? And Usyk was trying to hold out as long as he could. This was like a game of chicken to see who was going to swerve first. And obviously, Fury won that game of chicken. So the big narrative now going into the fight, because now the fight is pretty much sewn up, it's going to happen. Looks like it's pretty much done. So the narrative going in now is going to be, right? Did Tyson Fury try to price himself out of this fight? And did Alexander Usyk call his bluff? Is Tyson Fury concerned at all about Alexander Usyk? And people love to go back to that Steve Cunningham fight and make parallels to that, but I think it's apples and oranges. I mean, that's 2000.
I also hear Waleen's name brought up a lot in
Yeah,
it.
well, again, I gave Wallin 3 rounds. Again, the cut was there. The cut made the fight tough. Um, the cut in itself was more so the adversity than excuse me. It was more the adversity than Wallin himself. No disrespect, but I mean Wallin won 3 rounds, guys.
At most.
So Tyson Fury had to fight the cut more than he had to fight Wallin. Now, obviously, Wallin was the one that inflicted the cut. So again, he gets credit for doing that. We get it. Understood. But at the end of the day, is Tyson Fury afraid of Alexander Usyk? Did he really try to swerve Alexander Usyk? Does he really want this fight? That's what we have to ask ourselves. And if you're a fan of Fury, you're going to say, yeah, of course he wanted this fight. He's just exercising his leverage. He's the boss. So this is a boss-like move, right? Then if you're an Usyk fan, you're saying to himself, Usyk being disrespected here. He had to go through tons of hoops, jump over friggin' pylons and hurdles to get to this fight. Why did Fury disrespect and do this, right? Why did he do this to Alexander Usyk and disrespect him in this way? People want to talk about the belts. We debunked the belt thing, bro. There's numerous history.
We did that on my channel. And just before we continue, I want to thank one of my subs, This Ain't That, for coming over here and subbing the Joe Habib's channel, Ringside Reporter Live. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, consider joining the membership. Sorry, Joe.
There's numerous examples we've given with the whole this guy's got more belts, right? We've already debunked that. So we got to put that one to bed. But if this fight doesn't get made, right? Usually the guy who's the one who's putting the roadblocks in the way is going to get blamed. And I would have been disappointed, and I probably would have been critical, and I would have been critical of Tyson Fury if this fight didn't get made for my own selfish reasons. But with that being said, it's hard for me to just totally disregard and minimize Tyson Fury's stance here. Because I'm saying to myself, if I'm Tyson Fury, would I have done the same thing?
Would you use leverage if you had it?
Yeah, because to this day I use leverage. I always use leverage. When I call up Comcast and I'm trying to get deals with Comcast and I'm trying to get courtesy credits, right? Yeah. What do I say? I can go to RCN. I can go to DirecTV. Hell, I'll cut the cord. I'll go to Sling, right? I'll go to YouTube TV, right? And how do I have that leverage? Because there are other avenues that I can go down to kind of circumvent and cancel out Comcast. Now, if I didn't have all those options and I was stuck with Comcast, guess what? Then Comcast would have the leverage and they would use it, right? Because Comcast has the best internet. So what does Comcast do to add leverage to the situation for them? They bundle the internet with all these other features. And if you don't get these bundles with Comcast, you're forced to pay an exorbitant amount of money for the standalone internet. So that's what leverage is, guys. That's what leverage is. It's used every day. And a lot of times you could look at it as sometimes we've done this a lot. We complained about this a lot. A lot of these big companies and big businesses, they have these predatory price gouging type tactics. And some people, you could say, abuse leverage, right? You have contracts which can be considered predatory or what's also called unconscionable contracts, where the contract is so leveraged heavily to one side that it's ridiculously unfair. And the other party could be in such a position where he has no choice but to take it because, depending upon extenuating circumstances, we talked about COVID and we talked about other things where people are, in such dire situations that they have to take the contract where they're being exploited. Is Usyk being exploited here? I don't know if I want to go that far, right? Is he being disrespected? Maybe. But at the end of the day,
I mean, he's making millions of dollars for this.
That was the next sentence that was going to come right out of my mouth.
And I'll be honest, George took some heat in the chat, but I agree with what he said. He didn't really have a choice. 30% against Fury is probably triple what he would make in a mandatory fight versus Dubois. I think that's an accurate statement. It might be more than triple, might be more than quadruple. But here's my thing. I don't think that it was a bluff. I don't think that Fury was avoiding the fight. I think that Fury was doing what most fighters in his position would do, what most fighters who have had this position in the history of the sport have done, which is to exercise their leverage. I grew up seeing Floyd do it, Oscar do it. Okay. We've just recently seen AJ do it a lot, and we've obviously right up to this week, if you listen to Ryan Garcia, all right, we're seeing Tank do it to Ryan, right? The A side typically calls the shots in the sport of boxing.
And being consistent like I am, right? I acknowledge Tank was looking for an advantage, right? He was in a position where he could dictate terms, and he used his leverage. What I had this discussion with fans, again, we have to understand reality now. Like, you don't have to like something, right? You can disagree with something, you could be against something. But once you start shaping and recreating reality, that's where your arguments start to become ridiculous. People were saying, oh, well, Tank just did it because he was the A side. He didn't really need to do it. He was basically just flexing, right? He wasn't looking for an advantage. Well, guys, I hate to tell you, Tank kind of disproved your theory when at the press conference he openly said, when he was questioned by Ryan Garcia himself, why you try to weight train me then? He openly said, because you bigger than me. You rehydrate up to 180 pounds. What does that mean, guys? That he looked at, if I don't put this rehydration clause in here, if I don't put this catch weight in here, your size will be a problem for me, right? So in order for me to nullify that perceived advantage I think you have, I have to put in something to level my advantage over yours. And people were saying, oh, no, that's not what he's trying to do. He would have beat him anyways, blah, 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 blah. All that could be true at the same time. But the one thing you have to acknowledge is he put the catch weight and rehydration clause in because he was concerned about, and still probably may be, pure speculation on my part, but it's obvious that he was concerned about Ryan Garcia's size. So that's why those stipulations were put in there so he could get an advantage. Just like Tyson Fury, you could argue that he tried to price Usyk out. Okay, so if he tried to price Usyk out and Usyk called his bluff, right? Then why would he still accept the fight, right? I mean, he's not putting any stipulations in there for, you know, specific gloves or ring size, or so if he was concerned about Usyk the fighter, then maybe he would request a smaller ring. I haven't heard him do that. Maybe he would request, you know, specific gloves that they both have to wear, right? Maybe he would request, I don't know, what else could be thrown in there to give him an advantage? Maybe he would try to push the fight back or push it up or whatever. None of those things were done. I mean, this is all just about money, right? This is all just about money. So I guess you can argue that maybe he did try to price himself out. I mean, that's an old adage that gets thrown out there. Oh, the quickest way to get yourself out of a fight is price yourself out of it. Make a deal that is just impossible for the other guy to take, right? But again, he's not imposing any functional stipulations here. This is all monetarily. This has nothing to do with ring size and gloves and any of that stuff. I don't know the rematch clause situation. I don't even think I'm not even sure if there's a rematch clause in here. I don't know. Right? I don't know any of that. Right?
By the way, there's another big fight coming up where all of these things were negotiated, and I'm talking about Caleb Plant, who's going to be taking on David Benavidez in Vegas on March 25th. Going to Benavidez, Plant demanded everything. He wants to be, announced second. He wants his ring walk to be second. When people have leverage, they use it. I mean, by the way, how did Caleb Plant end up getting an 8-figure payday against Canelo, Joe?
Well, I mean, Canelo actually made a concession in that fight. He went over to Showtime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And put himself, but Canelo still got the most amount of money. But Caleb Plant negotiated for what he got. He held out, right? Billy Joe Saunders held out, got the, kind of asked for things. So sometimes it works in your favor, right? More often than not, you may not get everything you want, but you'll get something you want, right? So
we see here, nope, Fury dragged on negotiations. He didn't think Usyk would accept the 30%.
That's again, that the way the circumstances are, whenever a fighter says, I want a specific percentage, I want this, and it's a substantial amount, the implications are there. I don't necessarily think that Fury tried to price himself out of the fight, but an argument can be made that he did. I don't know.
What did I say about politics? I didn't say anything about politics, Centurion. I mean, I guess you want to say he's the people's champ. That's fine. I said it. Did I not thank him multiple times for the fact that he did everything he could to make this fight happen? I think I did.
I mean, is he your champ, Centurion, or is he the people's champ? You have to clarify that. You know what I mean? So I see the majority of people picking Fury to win this fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I did see a comment in the chat. I was trying to find it. I'll find it later. But essentially, it was a comment expressing serious doubt, Joe, as to whether or not this fight will actually go through, because according to the person, the contracts haven't been signed. I mean, okay. I remember hearing, oh, Fury's afraid to fight Dillian White, maestro. You really don't know what you're talking about. Fury's not a big star in the UK, maestro. You just watch. The stadium's going to be empty before the Dillian White fight. Well, he ended up fighting Dillian White, and they ended up putting 95,000 people in the arena. And, I mean, you don't have to take our word for it. This is directly off of BoxingScene.com. You guys can check it out. It's there live right now. WBA Press, Fury Usyk rematch, tentative deal. They asked for time to work on contracts. All right, so, I mean, they gave them a deadline, and they said, listen, if you don't do this fight, we're just going to mandate that you fight Dubois. And I'm guessing they don't want to fight Dubois for what will be many, many times less than the fight with Tyson Fury. My thing is this, and it always makes me laugh, Joe, to be honest with you, when people who I'm guessing have never fought, definitely not professionally, definitely not on a world championship level, you like to say, oh, Tyson Fury's a scaredy cat. He will never fight XYZ because he's afraid. Or insert name of another boxer they don't like. Guys, these guys aren't scared. Errol Spence Jr. is not afraid of Bud Crawford. Tyson Fury is not afraid of Alexander Usyk. Stephen Fulton Jr. was not afraid of Inoue or of Akhmadaliev. This is business, okay? I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why a guy who fought Deontay Wilder coming off of a 150-pound weight loss and having not been in a competitive fight against a top-tier opponent would be afraid of fighting a guy who, I'm sorry, guys, I hate to do this to you, but gave up rounds to Derek Chisora, expressed the fact that he got hurt by Derek Chisora, got pushed by Derek Chisora, went 12 rounds with Derek Chisora. Why is Tyson, excuse me, Joe, can you explain that to me? Like, why is he afraid of that guy? I don't understand.
I'll be honest here.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say that fear doesn't creep into a fighter's mind. It's hard for me to say that every fighter, there's not instances where some fighters just say to themselves, because Sugar Ray Robinson said this about Charlie Burley. He said, I never wanted to fight that guy, right? Some guys believe in their head that, you know what, there's just some guys out there that I can't beat, and I'm going to try to avoid them at all costs. I believe that to be true. But also the other side of the coin is this. I have an old saying, and I may not be the only person to say this, but I'm going to say this, right? The fight starts before the first bell even rings. And part of that fight and the first round of the fight starts with the negotiations, right? So that's where the egos come into play, right? I'm negotiating with you, you're negotiating with me, we're going back and forth. You want this, I want that. But because the egos, right, and the personalities and all of the, you know, the semantics that go on behind the scenes with the negotiations. So once one side starts giving up ground and the other guy starts, you know, getting what he wants, and the other guy has to start subtracting from the things that he wants. Right off the bat, that guy is starting to win. He's getting the leverage. So that right off the bat, like that,
I mean,
that presents a psychological advantage, right? On one side. He's like, already you're giving ground, already you're elevating that guy above you to some extent, and you're taking a conciliatory position. Right there, that can possibly show weakness. Just like at that press conference, right? When Ryan said, well, you know, I came on time, you didn't.
Yeah,
right?
I was just about to use that example.
Tank says, well, you had to. And Ryan's like, what's that mean? Basically, what that means is I'm running shit here. I'm the A side,
and
right?
you're not.
So I'm not going to sit there and say that there is no concern. Sometimes there is no fear. There is no maybe I just can't beat that guy mindset. I don't think it's as prevalent as people say it is amongst boxers, but more often I believe it's an ego thing. It's like, I'm not going to give in to you. I'm not going to let you gain ground over me. I'm not going to elevate you and put myself beneath you, right? I'm not going to give you that advantage over me because these guys are competitive, bro. They don't want to let one guy think he's getting over on me, right? Just like when, you know, myself, this is probably one of my flaws. I'll argue over a quarter. Why? Because I don't want anyone to beat me. If you beat me for a quarter, I'll be coming for your neck. That's just how people are, man. That's how men are. That's how alpha 1% males. I'm not saying I'm an alpha man, but that's how masculine men act, right? They're disagreeable. That's part of being masculine, right? They exercise authority. That's part of being masculine. These guys are the epitome of masculinity.
It's part of having a competitive disposition.
Competitive. There you go, Maestro.
Joe, I want you to address the comment that's on the screen because I almost died laughing out loud when I saw it pop up, and I want to know what your thoughts on it are.
Okay, this is what we will say. At AJ's peak, yes, pay-per-view wise, Fury could not compete. But as I've said, I think the situation is starting to shift, right? I think after these two back-to-back losses, him not being the champion again, and even, you know, my statement was, let's see what happens now moving forward after the back-to-back losses without him being champion again. And evidence has already suggested that he's dipped a little bit. I'm not saying he's, you know, a nobody. I'm not saying, you know, he's not going to be successful. You put him in there with Fury, you put him in there with Wilder. Those are blockbuster fights. But I believe, and maybe I'm wrong here, the days of putting AJ in there with just anybody is not going to cut it anymore. At one point, yes, I agree. He could fight anybody and people would buy it. Stadiums don't get sold out.
Carlos Takam, Joseph Parker.
Yeah, he was the man, and he's probably the most successful British boxer in the history of the sport. You want to talk about
Financially,
correct?
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm rating guys like Joe Calzaghe and Lennox
No,
Lewis
financial.
ahead of
When I say successful, I'm talking about financial, not accomplishment wise.
Yeah.
Right. I think, in my opinion, that's probably irrefutable. And even now, Tyson Fury may never catch up. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But at this particular time, I think Fury has got momentum. He's riding high.
Listen.
I do think this pay-per-view will do over 1 million pay-per-view.
The proof is in the pudding. I mean, one is going to be fighting Usyk at Wembley in front of 95,000 fans for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, and the other is going to be fighting in a half-empty O2 arena, probably papered with school children, people from the local nursing home, and like all kind of like military veterans and stuff, whoever they can bust in and give freebie tickets to, against a guy that just lost to Dillian White. So I mean, what are we talking about here? Fury isn't on AJ's level. That's literally a 2020, 2021, maybe 2022 discussion. I got news for you. We're in 2023 right now. So I just don't know how that can be justified. I really don't. I really don't.
I mean, I respect what AJ's done, right? I understand the pay-per-views. I believe the popularity is real. But once again, I don't think anything lasts forever, right? You know, even the Beatles had their run. And then at one point, you know, everyone falls, you know, dips or loses that momentum, loses their luster a bit, right?
Yeah.
No one can stay on top forever, right?
Yeah, I want to know how many people think that Usyk is going to win this fight in the chat. Let us know if you think Usyk is going to win this fight. Because if you think that Fury's going to win the fight, I don't know why you think that he would have been bluffing. And is upset that Usyk called his bluff.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Fury, I'm happy that Usyk agreed. I'm making 70%. I'm gonna make way more against Usyk than I would have made against guys like Andy Ruiz Jr. or Deontay Wilder a fourth time, or the juggernaut Joe Joyce, or I can't even think of another name that would pay any kind of money at all significant. I mean, they're not going to get away with another kind of Derek Chisora level opponent. They definitely wouldn't get away with like a Jermaine Franklin level opponent. So, I mean, I don't see any reason why Fury wouldn't be happy that Usyk has accepted the challenge, has taken the short side of the money, and is doing everything in his power to make sure this fight takes place, Joe.
Yeah, I like I said, he's just not going to give ground. I think all along this was going to be a game of chicken, and I'm not going to lie, I was getting nervous. You know that. I tell the truth. I was getting nervous. But then, you know, you made a great point, and you kind of reassured me a little bit. You basically said, "Beeb, Usyk's got nowhere else to go. He's got nowhere else to go. I mean, no matter what he does, it's going to be an L for him. At least Fury could fight someone like Joe Joyce. It's
But the problem is that Joe Joyce has already signed up to fight Zhang and is already training hard for that fight.
Yeah,
so that was
but this was before that.
Yeah.
He could have fought Ngannou. You know, that again, it's not a significant fight, but there were avenues down, you know, for Fury to take where he could make some money and you know, be in some big events. I just don't think there was any potential big events out there for Usyk. Hrgovic, you know, Dubois, with all due respect, love Dubois, but I just don't think he would have been the guy. Hrgovic, not the guy, right? So where would he have gone? Where would he have gone? I think his back was up against the wall. But again, you know, this is when when you put yourself in a position like I was a little bit surprised with 70-30. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought it would have been 60-40. I really thought it would have been 60-40.
Well, the funny thing is, listen, when you go into a negotiation, you always ask for more than than you think you'll get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Um,
I knew it was never going to be 50-50. And people that said it should have been or that it would have been, we got to be honest, that's a little bit unrealistic. I ask anybody, right? If you're Tyson, I'll be honest with you. If it was me and I was Tyson Fury, I would have given him 60%. Excuse me, 40%. I would have given Usyk 50% or 40% and taken 60%.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask
I'll be honest. I'll be honest.
You're always honest, but let me push you on that for a second.
All right, sure.
So he offered AJ 40%, right?
Correct.
What's the bigger financial fight in the UK? Fury AJ or Fury Usyk?
Fury AJ. I mean,
10%?
it's a good. These are all good. These are all good counter arguments, Maestro.
Right. I mean, if AJ brings in more money and he's being offered 40%, then this is all math. You got to get your emotions out of it, guys.
Yeah. The problem with me.
I'm sorry. I'm not all about safe spaces and living in the non-binary, post-toxic masculinity, post-patriarchal, all of that stuff. Look, facts don't have feelings, guys. These are numbers. Okay? And at the end of the day, all of these fights have a financial value. And I said this from the beginning weeks ago. Fury is not going to accept to make the same money or less for an Usyk fight than he would have made for a fight against Dillian White or Derek Chisora. He's just not. So, I mean, guys, like, it's literally just math. It's math.
Okay, so 80% of the people think the fight's going to happen. 20% say no. Okay. It's funny, when I did this same poll for Tank Ryan last week, it was like 55-45. 55 yes, 45 no. So it's funny how people believe in this fight a lot more than they believed in the other fight.
Fanboys for Fury is a funny show. What lies am I telling? I mean, you getting emotional, man. You're bringing in your feelings, right?
That was the point. That was the point I made earlier, Base. I said when there was a time when Joshua could fight anybody. At Joshua's peak, Fury is nowhere near that, and he may not ever be there. I don't know. Maybe if Fury fights Joshua,
newsflash, AJ's fighting Franklin, exactly. And they're struggling to sell tickets.
Let me read this out for Base. I'm sorry, Base.
Thank
you so much for the chat.
100%.
It says Judge Fury by the no-name opponents he fought. What were those numbers like compared to AJ's no names? That's how you judge their levels. That's how you judge their levels. Yeah, from a financial standpoint. Yeah, I would agree with that. But I would argue right now, with Joshua's status dipping a bit and Fury with the momentum at this particular time. This is just my opinion. I think Fury may be passing Joshua a little bit right now. It's my opinion.
Would you like to drop a link, Joe?
Absolutely, sure.
Let's drop the link. You guys can can join us live if you're so inclined, and let us know about your feelings. Did this all go wrong for Tyson Fury? Was he expecting Usyk to not accept the 70-30 offer? And do you guys think that Usyk is going to beat Tyson Fury when they meet April 29th at Wembley Stadium? Centurion, I'll answer that question right now. Absolutely. I already consider Usyk to be an all-time great fighter, and I already considered it for him to be the GOAT at cruiserweight. So I don't have any issues with Usyk. I don't dislike Usyk. I actually like Usyk a lot. I'm just not co-signing a lot of these narratives that I see on other people's platforms and on Twitter and social media. And I've actually backed away from Twitter about it. I put my streams up on there, but I'm not really engaging that much on it. Go for it, Philly Drew. Thank you for joining us again.
Like, for people that are saying how the hell did Wilder get 40% for his last fight, the fight took place in the United States. Wilder has a huge following still in the U.S. Now, people telling me that pay-per-view flop does not explain why Wilder shouldn't have gotten 40% and everything. Like, some of the comments in the chat, people need to think, need to do their research before they make some idiotic comments and everything, first of all. I think Fury wins this fight by a close decision. I think Fury is slightly better at this time than Usyk because he's a good boxer. He has the size advantage to do it. And I think that if you look at it and if you compare who's a harder opponent for AJ, for Usyk, Fury is a way harder opponent than AJ because AJ cannot adjust during fights like Tyson Fury can. And that's what it's going to come down to. Who can adjust the most during the fight? And I think Fury's going to make enough adjustments to win this fight.
Well, we're also being joined by King Jimbo again and by Base the Kid. Salute, guys. Thank you for tuning in and for joining us.
I think the one thing a lot of fans are forgetting or leaving out, I think, is whenever anyone would fight Joshua, they'd get their best payday times several, right? Usyk's actually not taking his best payday against Fury. Even if you don't agree with it being an even split with AJ.
Slow down. How do you know that?
Well, when he fought, so who did he fight? He fought Povetkin, Parker, and the offers he made towards Wilder, those were their career best paydays, right?
I know. I thought you said that Usyk isn't going to be making his career best payday. So I was asking you how you know that.
Oh, yeah. So if he takes 30%, so 30% of a $50-55 million pot or whatever it is, won't be more than.
How do you know? How do you know what the pot is?
Well, just based off the numbers that have been thrown around by the promoters.
I haven't heard any numbers being thrown around by the promoters.
Well, Eddie Hearn was saying that it's probably
Eddie Hearn's not the promoter of this fight.
The promoter, bro.
This is my thing. Like boxing on YouTube is about. They say this.
Okay, so
they say that, but when you press people on where they're getting information,
in my opinion, I'll be honest with you. In my honest opinion, I think Usyk got more to fight AJ than he will be getting in this fight. I agree with that.
Okay.
I can't confirm it.
In your opinion,
my opinion. I can't confirm it.
You don't know that.
I don't know it. I'm speculating. I'm just speculating.
But in your opinion, Maestro, do you really think at 30%, less than half, right, he'll be getting close to whatever was reported, or whatever you feel was close to being reported, right? Do you think he'll make the same money?
Honestly, I have no idea what he got in Saudi Arabia. I have no idea what he got in Saudi Arabia, and what I do know is that he's probably going to make more than he made when he fought AJ the first time at Tottenham Hotspur's arena. I believe that. So basically what you're going off of is one fight and one fight only. You're not going off of AJ Usyk 1. You're going off of AJ Usyk 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then AJ Usyk 2, it was in Saudi, and we don't know what the numbers were.
Yeah, but I feel like he's not the same person anymore, was he? The guy coming off of the Derek Chisora fight doesn't hold the same kind of clout or bargaining power that he does now as a unified champion coming off of two mega events, right? The first fight was huge, stadium event in the UK, and then the second fight was an international spectacle in Saudi, right? Those are two mega events. I'd say they were bigger fights than what Fury's been involved with in Chisora. To be fair, the white fight is pretty big.
Hold up. I just want to make sure everything's clear for the audience. So, which fights involving Usyk were mega events that were bigger than 95,000 fans at Wembley and 60,000 fans at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
So the first Joshua Usyk fight had a reported over 70,000 fans, but the rematch wasn't at a stadium. It was at like a Saudi, what do you call it, like a makeshift arena, right?
Okay, and that makeshift arena fight was bigger than Fury versus Dillian White, which filled 95,000 people at Wembley.
Well, if you want to believe that the site fees that were involved from what the Arabs paid, depending on what you want to believe, It was as high as 130 million, which AJ and Usyk split.
Joe, what are your thoughts on these reported Saudi site fees?
I honestly don't know anything about these Saudi deals. I know what Usyk's promoter said, that they offer separate deals to each fighter, and he doesn't know what the other side gets. As long as we're happy with our side, we don't care what the other side gets. That was a quote from him in one of the interviews. I don't know.
I was under the
Usyk
impression
walking away
that
from a bigger bag. But
Oh,
Usyk
sorry.
made more money.
Okay, Virtuoso, go for it, Virtuoso.
no, I was under the impression that Bob Arum was on camera stating that the amount that Fury stood to make was a lot, based on his testimony. So I don't know. I'm just coming from a principled perspective. That I felt like,
okay, I that's fine, but just so that we all understand, because I'm not sure I understand. The money Fury was supposed to make where and for what fight?
I believe it was for the undisputed fight with Usyk in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, in Saudi Arabia. All right,
Yes, that's he was being interviewed for.
Because Bob
Because
Arum
there was a
also
delay,
being
you know.
interviewed was saying stuff like, yeah, but they would have had to wait, and their timeline was off because of Ramadan, and they didn't have enough time to build a stadium when they wanted it to. So I mean, Arum was saying all type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that was really an issue, because I would have thought that they would have done that thing expeditiously, based on how based on how their neighboring country Qatar had set up the World Cup, like basically almost in like, whew, with all that slave labor. You know, I understand I guess the karma of taking oil money, but that was a lot of money that Fury had to turn out. I don't know for what reason at all that he had to bring the fight to Wembley. But I guess he's about the fans. I guess he's about his country and about bringing the belts back to the West. I guess he wants to just display that on April 29th against Usyk.
You know what's amazing to me? It's like the majority of British people, specifically people from England, that I've communicated with about this fight, don't even seem happy about the fact that the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world is taking place in their country. I mean, it's almost like disappointment that it's not taking place in Saudi Arabia. And it's like they're at least not to me, but the ones I'm communicating with, they're not really expressing any type of excitement at all that guess what? Their capital city, London, their national stadium, Wembley. By the way, I don't know if I've done this on Joe's channel before, but yeah, I got one of those. Okay. That they're hosting the fight.
Yeah. I don't understand the lack of enthusiasm. I guess they don't deserve it. I guess might as well put it back in Saudi Arabia.
It's perplexing. Perplexing.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you,
Paige.
mate.
Yes, Paige.
All right, brilliant stuff. So I'm not going to stay on too long because I'm outside at the moment. It's probably noisy. I don't want to disrupt the show. I just wanted to kind of clarify my super chat real quick.
Okay.
Now, what I was basically saying is that when it comes to what we've seen from Fury, like, yes, we've seen quote unquote 94,000 at Wembley. We've seen 56,000 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever it was. But both of those were next to opponents that were very well known within the UK. So what I wanted to say essentially was that while I actually do agree with you, Joe, I think he actually has overtaken AJ in terms of boxing, not commercial, but boxing. But we need to see what level he's really at. And the only way we're going to find that out is to look at what numbers he'll do against someone that the public doesn't know. Because when it's AJ, it's 600,000-700,000 plus pay-per-view buys. And so far from what we've seen, even though they won't give us the numbers, when it's Dillian and it's Chisora, it's sub 500. So that was what I was saying when I said that's the only way we can judge his levels, because if we're comparing him facing Usyk to AJ facing Franklin, that's a very false
No,
equivalent. And
well,
I feel
the
that, and I think
equivalent,
that's
the
hold
equivalent.
on, let me finish, because you like to cut people off, Maestro. Wait your
Let him
turn.
go, Maestro. Let him go,
Right.
Maestro.
So I just think that that's one of those situations where we can't be comparing apples to oranges. Yes, AJ's fighting Franklin in the O2, which is definitely nowhere near sold out at the moment. I just checked it the other day. They've even dropped the prices for the tickets, and that's not something they've ever done before. But it's a different level of opponent. When we look, but having said that, he still sold more tickets than when Fury fought Schwartz or Fury fought Valin in the US after he became this big star appearing on WWE and whatnot. So
Facts.
I just feel that we have to look at it in comparison to who's fighting, not just the timeline. That was all I wanted to say.
Yeah, my whole
Thank
point
you,
is
Nate.
my whole point is this. I don't think Fury can touch AJ at his peak. My question is AJ still that guy that can fight guys like Jermaine Franklin and still generate what he generated before the two losses? That's just my only question. I don't know. I can't answer that question. But
To
judging
be
by
honest, Beef, I don't think he can. I'll be honest, I don't think he can, especially not without a belt or something. But that being said, I think that he could, if we had smaller stadiums, like, if we're talking sort of 30, 40,000 with decent level opponents, not obviously a Manuel Char or someone like that, but someone who's within the top 15, I think he could still do a 30, 40,000 against relative nobodies, as opposed to obviously the huge stadiums.
got you.
Anyway, guys, enjoy the rest of the show. I'm gonna hit the gym, but I'm gonna be listening in. Peace.
All right, have a good gym session, Base. Thank you
Thanks,
for
brother.
joining us. Appreciate
Peace,
it.
base. No, I just want to ask you guys a question. I feel like, do you not feel like Tyson Fury kind of put the fuck to Usyk when he walked away from the Saudi deal? Because under the Saudi deal, Usyk would have probably got paid 3 to 4 times more money, or at least more than double what he's going to get from the percentile split, right? So asking Usyk to walk, because the deal fell apart because Fury was unhappy with the Saudis. Usyk had signed off on his end, right? So Fury's asked Usyk to step away from more money to come to Fury's backyard. And shout out, I'm from London, bro. So I'm loving it that it's happening here. But I mean, you're asking a guy to walk away from more money to fight you for less money in your backyard, and giving him less money than dudes that you fought, like Wilder, a fight no one cared for, or White, a regular contender, comparable.
How do we, but hold on. How do you know that Usyk is going to get less money than Wilder got?
No, because Wilder was given 40, was it 60-40, right? And this is 70-30.
Yeah, but you yourself said earlier that you thought that the Wilder fight was a flop. So if this fight is
Yeah.
a success, how do you know? How do you know that he's like, you're already projecting that what the fight with Fury is going to do less pay-per-views than the fight with Wilder?
No, I think it's a bigger fight than the Wilder fight. But
Well,
Bob Arum
if
said
it's
that.
a bigger fight, how does he end up making less money than Wilder got?
Because in the principal deal, he's taken a smaller percentage than what Fury was happy to give to Wilder.
Master,
Right?
can I step in on this real fast?
But a smaller percentage of probably a bigger pot. So that ends up being more money. That's just simple math.
Can I say something real quick?
Go for it.
Like, you can say, it doesn't necessarily mean, he got 40%, Usyk gets 30, that Wilder's going to make more money than Usyk, because at the end of the day, it all depends on the numbers. It all depends on the attendance of the stadium, or the pay-per-view numbers. That could do over $1 million, and Usyk could probably make like $40 million out of it, and that's way more than Wilder would have made out of a flop.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to point out real quick. Look, the optics of Fury turning down the Saudi money, it was not in his favor, right?
Not at all.
I felt like okay, he took food off of Usyk's plate. Granted, okay, but he still stands to make more money fighting Fury in England. Okay, but that's just all I wanted to come in and say.
No, Virtuoso, I agree with you. I mean, look, people want to throw out Saudi numbers as if it's Moses with the with the 10 Commandments. I mean, how do we know what the money was? Like, for somebody to say, well, he's going to be paid 3 times less than he would have with the Saudis, based on
Again, Bob
Based on
confirmed
what?
it. Bob confirmed it, and I take his word for it. The guy likes money, and if he's saying what he's saying is true, then I gotta take his word for it because, listen, man, they throw around money like it's nothing, man. So
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Maestro, the
I'm
only
I'm glad the fight is happening, but it took a little drama to really like bring that shit back, to England.
Yeah.
but I feel like
Cholo,
Maestro, how
let's get Cholo involved. I haven't heard from Cholo yet. Cholo, what are your thoughts, fam?
Yeah, man. I mean, this just kind of goes to what boxing's been turning into, that it's not even really about the titles anymore. It's just about who is the draw and who is going to bring money to the table. And Usyk is not that guy, regardless of him being champion or not. He's just not that draw. So, as far as AJ was a mega star. Has he taken a few steps back? I believe so. I got really nothing to prove it, but I believe he's probably taking a few steps back. I still believe he's still a big draw and a big name and brings more numbers in than Usyk does, even though he lost to Usyk. But I mean, look, we got Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, who's a real champion in that one. But yet, that's turning out to be some. I don't really want to say mega fight, but at the same time, just by numbers, I think it is somewhat of a mega fight. There's really nothing on the line. It's over here on the West Coast. I'm over here in Killer Cali. I
Right.
wanted to go to the fight, and I was extremely priced out. I mean, the nosebleeds were $800, and that's ridiculous. But here we got the heavyweight championship of the world, which is supposed to be the top dog, right? If we go back in boxing history. And basically, it just turns down. It just goes to what boxing's turning in today. The titles, they should mean something, but at the end, it all just really matters. How much do you bring to the table? How many butts do you bring to the seats, and how many pay-per-view buys? How much of a draw you are?
Can I respond to that real quick?
Go for it,
The
Virtuoso.
people that hand in belts, they pay attention to who's a draw, and it matters to them who they put the belt on. That's why I feel like I feel like they give preferential treatment to certain unified champions like Canelo Alvarez and Errol Spence Jr. You know, because they bring in the money. So yeah, titles used to mean something, but the guys that handed the titles are all about the money as well. So they're very business savvy as well. So let's not forget that.
no, I just
Well, they're
want to
not.
ask Maestro
They're
something.
not handing them the belts; they're winning the belts.
Hmm.
In this case, it would have been better and much more marketable had AJ beat Usyk, and we're talking about AJ versus Fury as opposed to Usyk versus Fury.
Hmm. Yeah, because I kind of look at Usyk as the spoiler to the heavyweight title picture because yes,
Yeah.
this fight, if it were for undisputed between AJ and Fury, it would have broke bank, no doubt about it. But I'm just entirely speaking from a business perspective that the people that do award the titles, they have a system known as sanctioning fees. And so when I think about, well, when I hear things like, well, titles used to mean something, but I look at the titles as a piece of property that they rent. They don't exactly own it,
Mhm.
because they still have to, they get levied a tax on them. So it's like it matters to somebody who has a big purse for them to put a title on, and it's not. Let's not put it past them that they would do it. That they wouldn't do anything to try to circumvent, earning it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but we just see him with Triple G. He's no longer champion of any sort. He just
Yeah.
relinquishes the belts,
By
and
his own doing.
yeah, at
Hmm.
his own doing. Some say that he doesn't want to pay the sanctioning fees anymore, whatever it may be. I don't even really know.
You don't want that smoke with
And
Lara.
plus,
That's
I
what he
also
don't
think
want.
that
You don't want
I
that
think
smoke
him not
with
having
Lara.
a broadcaster, it might have been a factor because his last fight with Canelo was his last fight on the zone deal, right?
Yeah, I believe it
I mean, for
was.
a guy with one fight, left in the sport, maybe. I mean, no offense to Landy Laura, it's just probably Golovkin's thinking, look, I've got one fight in me, maybe. And at this stage, I just don't think he wants to defend belts, which won't
That's a
really do
shame.
much for him. He's
I
never going to
really would
become
have liked that
undisputed.
fight because Erislandy Lara had been talking a whole bunch of shit about Triple G, but never chose to move up. And so when he has the opportunity via the WBA, being a regular title holder, Golovkin kind of keep his end of the bargain, and it's like, okay, you want me, you got it, but we don't
Let me
have
ask
that.
Joe to respond to Larry Merchant in the chat. Larry Merchant says, B, just watch an old video of yours on AJ versus Wilder split, and you are not being consistent. I don't know what that's about. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit.
I've always said that the A side is going to get as much as he can. He's going to utilize his leverage. I actually say in this situation, I do think 70-30 seems a bit wide. I think 60-40 would have been better, in my opinion. But again, my opinion is insignificant to this. But yeah, I understood what AJ was doing. I understand what his team was doing. The one thing I did not like initially was when they offered Wilder flat fees. They were saying that he was only the first offer was $3 million flat fee, and then the second one was I think they went as high as $12 million flat fee, and they weren't going to give Wilder any
pay-per-view.
Yeah, any points of the pay-per-view. I didn't think that was a good deal. That's all. But they have every right to do what they want to do. That's called negotiations. So, this is nothing new.
Well, I mean, I don't like the whole A side, B side, but it does exist. And who is the A side? The champion or the guy that brings most of the fans to pay for whatever fight we're talking about?
And that's been my whole point, Cholo. We can have our opinions on situations, but we have to deal in reality that this isn't the first time this has happened. This isn't the last time it's going to happen. And when people do have leverage, they use it. I mean, that's just reality. We can take sides if we want, but we have to understand what's going on. We have to acknowledge reality. A lot of these guys, they don't want to. They want to make it all about sides. They don't want to. It's a little bit immature on their part. But what am I going to do?
I feel like that whole A side B side talk started when during the Pacquiao and Floyd era, when they couldn't get a fight together and people try to find reasons why it's not happening, and then people had to break down the strenuous political economy of boxing.
I feel like A side and B side should be about money splits. When you start talking about rehydration clauses and gloves, I feel like you're damaging the product. And as a sports fan, like say with Ryan Garcia's got a rehydration clause, if he comes in there weight drained, I feel like as a fan I'm getting a damaged product to what could have been. So I feel like A side and B side should only be used for I want more money. I want the fight in New York instead of London. I want a rematch clause. That's cool, be an A side. But don't start talking about weight stipulations and gloves and ring sizes. Leave that up to the commission.
I mean,
same way in soccer.
Tank was saying A side means you could be late to press conferences. That's what he was telling Ryan the other day.
No, and that B side means
that shit was hilarious, man.
And that B side means you're supposed to be on time, and I don't have to be.
Ryan should have showed up late.
That is an interesting one to me because A, it's not for any title belts. B, they're marketing it as a former lightweight champion, which Ryan never was. I heard Oscar say that. Versus the current lightweight champion.
He was a title eliminator contender.
Which Gervonta Davis never was. He's never been a lightweight champion. And they're marketing it as a fight between two top lightweights. One of them has a Reggie belt. The other one used to hold an interim title. And they're fighting at 136, not at 135. For what? Bragging rights at 140 or at 135?
No, it's at a catch weight.
Yeah, I understand that, but Ryan says he's not even a lightweight anymore. So what divisional bragging rights are at stake?
Everything
I
Maestro
think
said.
it's social media bragging rights.
Well, there you go.
Everything Maestro said is 100% factual. But after seeing these two press conferences, I'm all in with this fight. I'm getting.
I'm all in with it too.
I'm pumped, man.
I'll be honest. The first one was a dud, but the second one got me hyped.
Yeah, but let's not act. Hold up. Let's not act like this is Lomachenko taking on Haney for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world, which is also supposed to take place in Vegas in the following month in May. Let's not act like it's that kind of fight because it's not. This is a fight where the guys are bringing in their celebrity and their highlight reels, but are not bringing any title belts or any real accolades to the party. I'm sorry. I'm interested in it, but
Okay.
let's not pretend it's what it's not, because it's not what the other thing is.
All right,
Okay, I have a
Call
question for
promotion,
the
call
panel.
promotion, Maestro. That's what they got to tell you, right?
I got a question for the
I
panel.
thought Tank
And
had a baby belt.
I want to respond to Maestro right there, man. You're
Okay.
right, Maestro. It's not Haney Lomachenko that's for all the marbles, man. This fight,
Yeah.
Tank and Ryan, is actually bigger than that, man. That's the point that I'm trying to make. No way does Loma and Haney revenue as much money as Tank versus Ryan, even though it's at a catch weight. There's no real champion to it. It's where boxing is today. And just being from East LA, man, growing up as a kid, Oscar De La Hoya was like a hero to me, man. But I cannot just stay away from the mic and stop showing your weird old pictures, man, because damn it, dog, I don't know what Oscar's doing.
Cholo, I gotta say one thing though, man. He's actually got his mic game on point for this for this promotion for some reason. I kind of like what he's doing this promotion.
Calling both of them champions.
That's called promotion, man. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Oscar is a promoter.
Promoter.
I think if
I'm
the
a
zone
stand
would
for
have
this.
had like
I'm a stand
Yeah.
for this fight right now, Cholo. I'm a stand for this fight right now. They got me.
All right,
They got me,
all right.
they got me roped. They roped me in. They roped me in.
To
Wait,
sell
Beef,
the
was
fight,
it better
just
than
start calling everyone a champion, man. All right.
no Beef? Was it better than Caleb Plant and Benavides though? I thought that was more fire.
But yeah,
No,
I just
that was
wanted to ask a
fire.
question
That was
real quick
fire. That
to
was
the
fire.
panel.
That was fire.
If Haney Lomachenko is a pay per view, right? Does it sell more than Ryan versus Tank?
I don't
No.
even think it's going to be. Is that going to be a pay per view for sure?
I don't
Yeah, it
know,
is, yeah.
but I've heard rumors.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah,
That's what I heard,
that
yeah.
doesn't sell.
I
doesn't
hope
sound-
they don't make it pay-per-view, man, because I think they'll actually end up being embarrassed because it won't even come close. Well, I don't know if it will come close. Maybe it'll come close, but no, it's not gonna match up to the numbers of Ryan and Tank. And that's unfortunate.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm rooting for this stuff. I would like the titles. That's for all the marbles, man, at 135.
Mhm.
I would like that to be much, much more meaningful. I really
Right.
would, but that's not
Can I be honest,
where
bro?
boxing is at.
It's just that Haney and Lomachenko, they're not polarizing figures, and
Right.
so Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, they're polarizing, so they're gonna sell the fight with their personality and whatever shit they say.
No, I feel like I don't want to piss on anyone's bonfire, but Tank, I mean, it's well known, that his pay-per-views are doing very poor, and Ryan's never fought on pay-per-view. So I get
Right.
what people are saying. There's a lot of hype, but as far as the actual numbers, I really don't know what kind of mega event this is, though. You got one guy who's struggling to sell 100,000 buys in Tank, and you got another guy in Ryan who's never fought on pay-per-view. So I don't know what this fight will do.
Does anyone know what the situation is with the distribution? Because you see DAZN and Showtime on like all of the posters and the fight
Mhm.
Yeah.
material. Does anyone know
Yeah,
about?
so Showtime will carry. Yeah, bro. Showtime's will carry the event in America on through satellite and cable, and I think the Zone you can buy it through them digitally through their app, and then they'll air it globally through their Zone app.
Who has the digital rights in the United States? Does anyone know?
The Zone.
Okay, so it's not going to be on the Showtime app. It's only going to be on Showtime on cable and satellite.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I heard. So the Showtime they'll control the satellite distribution, and the Zone will handle the digital distribution and the global rights. I think that's what I was hearing.
Okay,
You know what? I think it does stand to make a lot of buys, being that the Zone is handling the distribution in case if it is a
Yeah.
pay-per-view in other markets.
Hmm.
Just going back answering. I don't know who said it that Tank is struggling to sell pay-per-views. I agree. Okay, I agree. However, look at the opponents he's been selling pay-per-views with. I'm not saying that he's some megastar because I don't believe that, but he hasn't really had a dance partner like Ryan Garcia. Yeah, Ryan Garcia has never fought pay-per-view either, but he is very popular. So we got these two guys finally meeting up. So
Yeah, but like I said before, I mean, that's his own doing. I mean, he's the one who's fighting the Hector Garcias and the Mario Barrioses and the
Rolly Romero,
a 14 fight novice. I mean, Pitbull Cruz. These are guys that he selected.
Right,
know?
right.
So yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that it would have been a good pay-per-view had he, fought a guy like Devin Haney or a guy like Lomachenko,
Yes.
or even a Gambosis when Gambosis was undefeated, right?
Yes, I agree. But just kind of to put a little bow on this, look, if let's say there's a third fight between Usyk and AJ, I'm not so sure Usyk makes more money than AJ in that fight, even though Usyk already beat AJ twice and is the champion. I think it's possible that AJ walks away with more money if there's a third fight.
I don't know, to be honest, bro. I mean, a dude beating you twice and taking your belts. I mean, that'd be an awkward negotiation saying, hey, I want even parity money with Usyk, let alone the bigger split. I mean, how would you even start that conversation?
All right.
Well,
So before I just want to circle around to a couple more things before we end this, because I do have to go soon. We're live on my channel before, and then we've done an extension over here. You guys know that there's a lot of boxing on TV today, right? Tony Yoka is going to be taking on Carlos Takam. That should be on ESPN Plus. Quickly, let's go around the circle here, starting with Philly Drew. Who you got in that fight? I don't think Philly Drew's there. King Jimbo, you going to be watching?
Yeah, bro, I'm going to be watching. I was a fan of Tony Yoka, even though I thought he got a questionable decision with his gold medal. I like the kid, I thought, especially for French boxing, I thought he was like a breath of fresh air, a talented guy. I thought he could have really changed up the French scene. Like, how you had Wilder in America, you had Joshua here. I thought we could have had Yoka in France, and there could have been a bit of a global fire starter. But yeah, I think he's a better fighter. He's younger, more talented. I think he'll win. And I wish him good luck, I think he could still do some good things in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, if he's that guy that he's been touted to be, despite the positive drugs test, I think he should be able to handle a guy like Takam at this stage of his career. Virtuoso?
Yeah, Francis' answer to AJ didn't quite pan out against Piccoli.
Yeah.
I got Carlos Takam.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, Takam's always a live dog. So that's interesting. You guys excited about Diego Pacheco, Jack Cullen on DAZN?
I think
really,
Pacheco is a sensational fighter, but I don't know much about his opponent. But I'll be looking forward to watching that because he's a good fighter. He's good to watch.
Yeah, and then lastly, we've got Tim Tszyu. He's going to be taking on Tony Superbad Harrison. It's a full day of boxing. What do you think about that one, Virtuoso?
I love it. I think Tony Harrison is very, entertaining fighter. With the mic. In the fight though, like he does things that gets him the loss. But it's not. I wouldn't be surprised if either guy won because I think they're highly touted, but I think they're almost on equal footing in my opinion.
Yeah, go for it, Jimbo.
No, I was going to say I'm actually really looking forward to that fight. I think Tim Tszyu, he's a rising sort of young contender, and I think Tony Harrison is like a veteran champ. So I look forward to that. Me personally, I think Tim will win. I just think the youth, the pressure, it being in Australia, and when you combine that with Tony, who's kind of been fighting part time, he's been knocked out a couple of times. I think the stage is set for Tim to win.
Yeah. I'm gonna end my contribution here on today's live, answering Nopal's question here. Give us a pay-per-view number prediction for Tank versus Ryan. Man, I don't know. That's a tough one in today's market. I mean, these things are almost impossible to predict. I wouldn't have been able to predict the Tommy Fury numbers with Jake Paul. Nor have I been able to predict any of the last numbers that Tank has done in his pay-per-views. What I will say though is I do think it should get over 500,000 buys. What about you, Joe?
I originally said 400,000, but now I'm gonna, after those two press conferences, I'm gonna bump it up to 6.
Right, especially after the numbers were released with Jake Paul too. I think because I think they are creating a bit of a buzz. Anything else, Joe?
I'm good, man.
Before we wrap up, all right, Jimbo. Philly True Irish, and Virtuoso. Thank you so much for joining us. Big shout out
Salute,
to Jake,
fellas.
to
Good
Base
talking to you
Kid,
guys.
Thank you, bro.
and the Cholo Trucker as well, who also joined us. Enjoy a great day of boxing, guys.
Peace out, gentlemen.
Take care, guys.
All
Thanks
right,
for having me
guys.
on, man.
Absolutely. You guys take care. All right, Joe, that's another